Affairs Council for inviting me as well. A little known fact, I don't think Jim knows this as well, but UNT is actually where I got my foreign policy start. I grew up in Gainesville, Texas, which is about 30 minutes up the road from here. And when I started doing debate in high school, the first topic we did was U.S. foreign policy towards Russia. Now, how does that relate to UNT? Well, I spent many a nights in the UNT library researching foreign policy towards Russia, so I thank UNT for allowing me to use your facilities for free. So it's really great to be back and great to see so many people here. As a native Texan, it's really, and having been on the East Coast for so long, it's really nice to see people that are interested in these issues here in Texas. And for me to get a chance to kind of demonstrate and talk about some of my experiences working on these issues. Now, I haven't had the distinguished careers of some of these professors here on this panel, but I want to state for the record that I do know who Woodward and Bernstein are, despite how young I look. But most recently, I was in Washington, D.C., working as Deputy Chief Counsel on the Intelligence Committee in Congress. And in that role, we had oversight over all the different intelligence agencies, the CIA and the like. And part of my job was to get the members prepared for their hearings and briefings with the Director of the CIA, Leon Panetta, or Director of National Intelligence, and also travel with them around the world to see kind of what we're doing, not just in Washington, D.C., and get kind of the ground truth of how our intelligence community is working. So I'd like to offer just a few reflections of that time. And I'll preface my remarks with, I can't talk about any specifics about what I learned because it's all top secret compartment information, but I can talk about kind of the general policy issues that arose throughout my time there, which I'll do. And I'll highlight 4 kind of major points of where I see U.S. intelligence policy right now. The first thing is 1 word, 3 letters, big. The intelligence community is huge. Not many people in this room would know that beyond CIA and DIA and FBI, we have 16 different federal government agencies and entities that are looking at intelligence. The Treasury Department, the Energy Department with our nuclear labs, the State Department, Drug Enforcement Agency, and everyone in the military branches has an intelligence component. So everyone's kind of in the game, and this has become really big business over the last few years. I would point to kind of an article today in the New York Times that talked about kind of the expenses we've had since 9/11, and this was kind of broadly speaking security, military, et cetera, but they calculated the figure at $3.3 trillion. It's a massive amount in times of fiscal restraint and having to look at kind of where we can tighten our belt as a country. It's interesting to see kind of how the national security spending and the intelligence spending in particular has grown over time. But as we've seen and kind of as we're going on with the changes with the intelligence community, we've also gotten bigger in terms of bureaucracy. In 2004, after the WMD issue with Iraq, we kind of had a review of our intelligence community, and we came up with an idea of we're going to have a director of national intelligence that will oversee all the different agencies in the United States that do intelligence. Great idea in theory. In practice, we've had a few problems implementing this. There's been a few hiccups. You know, we've had a DNI, Director of National Intelligence, for 8 years now, and we've had 4 different guys in the job in those 8 years. It's kind of the job in Washington that no one really wanted. I mean, if you look at the hierarchy, you have the Director of CIA, who was Leon Panetta at the time, who reported to the Director of National Intelligence. Well, Leon Panetta, according to newspaper reports, was asked to take a promotion and become the Director of National Intelligence. He said no. He didn't want that promotion. It's become a hard job in Washington to have because you have 16 different agencies with each of their little fiefdoms that have a little bit of the pie that want to be involved in intelligence. These are some of the kinks we have to work out. We've grown a lot in these last 10 years. How we'll kind of manage that growth is something to look at over time. The second big point I kind of seen over time as we've moved in our intelligence community is the shift from strategic intelligence to more tactical, actionable intelligence. Now let me break this down a little bit for people that aren't in the parlance. So intelligence is used to support policymakers. So the President of the United States gets a brief every day called the Presidential Daily Brief. In there is, you know, the hot spots of the world and kind of the flashpoints of what's happening, what leaders are thinking, what their intentions are, if there's a summit going on somewhere, what's going to happen at the UN General Assembly in a week, who's going to present what resolution on there. Our policymakers need to know to be able to react to that. That's strategic intelligence, understanding what these countries think. we've seen a major shift from strategic intelligence to tactical and actionable intelligence after 9/11. Tactical intelligence is more, where's the bad guy? How can I find the bad guy? And how can I send a military guy in there or a missile in there to go kill the bad guy? That's the change. And I think what we're seeing over time now is as we're shifting more towards the tactical and more towards the actionable intelligence, we may be missing a little bit more of the strategic. And I'll kind of flag that point and come back to that in a second, but I want to talk a little bit about the tactical. I mean, the best example I can think of the tactical intelligence is the Osama bin Laden operation, where we had an operation where we had actionable intelligence that the President of the United States made a gutsy decision to go after him with our military, as opposed to dropping a bomb from the sky or sending a plane in. He had actionable intelligence, he acted upon it, and it was a success. However, one of the things that is underlooked in this situation is the role of strategic and the role of kind of the deep thinkers in this process. Kind of understanding kind of how analysts conduct intelligence gathering. So there were bits and pieces of information, you know, we've all read the reports in the press, where analysts have pieced together what happened, how did we get to Osama bin Laden, what's this courier situation, and all these little bits and pieces led to this compound in Abbottabad, Pakistan. Well, that's the strategic analysis that's leading to a tactical decision. The key point is, and what I flag for policymakers, you know, on the committee and the members that we deal with is, if we've shifted everyone over to just following the terrorists and following the bad guys, and we devote all our resources to that type of work of finding a way to get at them and supporting our military, who's looking at what China's doing? Who's looking at what Russia's doing? Who's looking at what Iran's doing? We have resources devoted to them, but the best and the brightest are probably going to go towards counterterrorism, because that's where the promotions are, that's where the focus is right now. And we want to make sure, at least I feel like we should make sure, that we don't sacrifice strategic intelligence just for the sake of the tactical fight now. You know, hopefully, inshallah, in 20 years, we won't be dealing with this terrorism problem, and we'll need to be dealing with other threats. But we can't fall behind on China and Russia at the expense of what's happening now. We have to, you know, walk and chew gum at the same time. My third point is that we have a real lively debate still going on over some of the tools and authorities that we're using in our intelligence community. And I'm sure there'll be some questions on it in terms of, you know, Patriot Act and Gitmo, and Professor Mirza alluded to some of those as well. These are lively debates, and I'm just going to leave it at that there are lively debates going on right now, and that they'll continue to go on as we progress in this war on terror. And if we get attacked again on the homeland, I think you will see even a renewed interest in those debates. But finally, I'll end with this. We're still figuring it out, and it's really hard business. You know, as a staffer in Congress, we hadn't passed a bill on intelligence since 2004. When I got to the committee in 2010 was the first time we were able to pass legislation that did anything with the intelligence community, and we had a backlog of bills that, you know, either were vetoed or couldn't get through Congress, and you had like a 300-page bill that we finally passed in 2010. The reason being, there are really tough issues right now, really controversial issues. People have really staked out positions on what they want to see happen with intelligence. It's not that people are right or wrong, it's people have legitimate areas of disagreement of how we should win this war and what are the tools we need to do it. And I think that's indicative of kind of the debates that are going on. I mean, I think what's really good about the committee right now, and, you know, I was sad to leave the committee, but I need to come back, I want to get back to Texas as soon as possible. We had a good spirit of bipartisanship going on in the staff there. You know, we may agree to disagree on certain issues. There are definitely the political ones, but there were so many issues that we fundamentally agreed on. 95%, I'd even say, that we agreed on. It's just now taking that to the next step, figuring out how to do it within the means that we have and the budgets that we have right now, and finding a way to keep our country safe is really the ultimate goal.